The Trump-Vance ticket faced pushback earlier this year when they raised the issue during their campaign. Here's a visit, and one of the reasons why Biden and Kamala Harris could not win.
There's got to be some element of truth here. And of course, President Trump was actually in Aurora, Colorado, talking to people on the ground. And what we're hearing, of course, Martha, is that people are terrified by what has happened with some of these Venezuelan gangs.
I'm going to stop you. The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be.
Trump also isolated the problem, told the truth, got people's attention. Remember the debate.
You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States.
And of course, Aurora, Colorado's mayor went after those comments, which happened to be true.
And the former president, I think, has spoken about the city, but we are the 51st largest city in America, and this is relegated to a couple of apartment complexes, and I don't believe that that's the case certainly now. And so I think that it presented an image of the entire city being overrun by Venezuelan gangs, which was grossly inaccurate.
No, it's not actually. It's an invasion by them in the 51st largest city. Republican Congressman Pete Sessions of Texas, member of the Border Security Caucus, co-chair of the DOJ Caucus, and Oversight Committee member. So great to have you in focus today. This seems like an unsurmountable problem that's really going to be tough to wrangle. What do you see down the road right now that the president-elect has to do first?
The president-elect needs the cooperation of local people, and as these issues become more apparent because of TV coverage, because of the media now focusing on what's actually happening, not just to innocent people, but American citizens who are also very vulnerable to these attacks, the federal government will begin doing their job. Donald Trump will make sure that not just with Tom Homan, but dedicated federal law enforcement who for years have had their hands bound will begin this process, and they will be successful. And we do need to keep having people to report these incidents so that the bad guys will be shipped out, prosecuted, but shipped out of the country.
Look, I know the details are hard to hear. I mean, it is torture, what some of these people are going through. Many of them are here as migrants who are being preyed upon by the illegals because they know that they are weak. They are just sitting in wait, basically. But as you mentioned, American citizens in some of these cities like Chicago have been living under what I would call economic tyranny by liberal mayors. Your quick thought on that?
Well, the bottom line is even the mayors of Chicago and New York are now admitting that they must do business, not just with the federal government, but must do business as a messaging to say, we have a problem. This all comes as courtesy of the Democratic Party and of the Biden administration. But it happens in all these cities that have Democratic mayors. They are now going to find that there's competition by the people who are this silent majority who will speak up, and that is what we need.
President-elect Trump's team is laying out those day one border security plans and executive actions that he will take, and they include giving federal immigration officers more power, restarting border wall construction, and starting mass deportations. The House Border Security Caucus, which you are part of, Congressman, held a news conference just this morning on those priorities and the failures of the Biden administration. Let's watch this together.
It's so criminal, literally, for these mayors and these governors, these Democrats who are saying, we're going to resist.
The long national nightmare of our open borders is almost done.
As the disastrous Biden administration is coming to an end, and with that, there will be an end of open borders, asylum abuse, lawlessness, sanctuary cities, all these will end as well. Every single one of these cartel thugs and evil terrorists needs to be deported immediately.
Well, when it comes to those sanctuary jurisdictions, an analysis highlights what the incoming administration, specifically the borders are under Trump, Tom Homan, is up against. It finds that there are 8 million illegals living in sanctuary jurisdictions. Now, that's not the total number that have come in, but the majority of them have sought sanctuary. Well, can you imagine? Of course, the welcome sign is out. 56% of all illegals currently in our nation are in those sanctuary cities. They are hiding nearly 60% of them from ICE. That's got to be against the law. Can we make it against the law if you are hiding terrorists and gang members who've come here illegally?
Well, we can make it against the law, but I think we need to remember that today on the border, what is happening is the Democratic Party and the Biden administration are allowing the huge pieces of unfinished border wall to be carted off, to be sold. This will delay, once again, by a number of months, the ability not only for Congress to reprioritize and give the money, which was already given for border security. And this is currently going on. And I've heard no Democrats say the president should stop this action.
Oh,
They're simply delaying our ability to effectively, quickly put a stop in this hole. We have to have the border wall finished necessarily before we go transporting all these people out of the country, or they'll be right back in like a snake with an open hole.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.